What's up, everyone? Before we start the show, I wanted to acknowledge the passing of Enrique, aka Reek, from New Jersey Bloodline, as well as Riley from Power Trip. Rest in peace. And my thoughts are with their friends and family. Hardcore is an interesting thing. I feel like if you've been involved in a while, everyone's like two steps away at minimum from someone you know. So a lot of people are feeling real sad today for the loss of both those dudes. And so I'm going to think a nice thought for their friends and families. And everyone should pick up the phone and give a call to a friend they haven't talked to in a while. Let them know you love them, because you never know when people are going to not be here. So let's do that. And rest in peace. What's up, everyone? This week on the pod, I got Corey Williams of Stand Your Ground, Carry On, Piece by Piece, Internal Affairs, Manipulate, Absolute Madness, Wounds, all your favorite bands. And it's a nice long podcast. It was great catching up with Corey, getting his origin story, and going through a bunch of these bands. It's super long, and we're going to have to do a part 2 that I'm looking forward to a lot. So that'll be coming to you soon. Please support the podcast by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. On Apple Podcasts, give it a subscribe. On Spotify, subscribe. You can do this. And then please, give it a 5-star rating or a like or a review wherever. If you can take the 20 seconds to give it a review, that is much appreciated. If you'd like to go the extra mile, go to patreon.com/185 miles south. Become a monthly Patreon. There's bonus podcasts. Basically, anytime we do an interview, I get a couple people together. We go into the discography of whoever we interview. So there's bonus content. Right now, probably 2 a month, or 1 every other week, something like that. So I think you'll enjoy that. But patreon.com/185 miles south. And let's get on with the show.
"185 Miles South", a hardcore punk rock podcast.
What's up, everyone? This week on the pod, we have Corey Williams of Carry On, Piece by Piece, Internal Affairs, and all your other favorite bands. What's going on, dude?
Yo, what's up, man? Good to be on the pod. Long time listener, you know what I'm saying?
Long time listener, first time caller. What's up? But yeah. So I've known you for a long time, so this is always good when you got some natural banter going on, and it is good to have you on here, cause I've known you forever.
Yeah, man.
So you can't get away with lying to me and shit.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, what was it? I would say 97 is probably a realistic year when we met.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like,
go ahead.
It was before Stand Your Ground.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, like, fucking, I think I met all you dudes at the 10-yard fight show at Pickle Patch.
Which would have been 97, right? Because that was 97, 98.
Yeah. Eyelid, Battery, 10-yard fight, Pickle Patch. They also played Showcase on that tour. But we were already friends with Zarian and the Ojai dudes. And it's like, met a few of you that night. And then it was like the next day I heard from Todd Jones. And then he was up in Newbury Park hanging out. I came down to Oxnard to hang out, But yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's cool that we have, 23 years of history. Fucking awesome.
Yeah, I agree. But going back even further, because like it's kind of interesting because you don't do a hardcore band until like 98, but you got into hardcore in what, the early 90s?
Yeah, so I would say 92.
Okay.
So I was born in the Valley, My parents moved us to Moore Park. Moore Park was like a real dull town. Like there's a little community college. A lot of migrant farm workers live there, and nothing really cool happened. We did a lot of bad shit, got in trouble. Got arrested stealing bikes when I was 10. Good job. And then I think when I was 10, also like I was into gangster rap. Like I had a babysitter that gave me a cassette of NWA and Too Short, and it was like, I don't know what the fuck this is. I don't know what it means, but it's awesome. And then I remember I got in really big trouble at school. I was singing Two Live Crew on the playground. So, yeah, whatever. What do I know about, hey, we want some pussy? I'm like 11 years old.
Hey, Me So Horny was fucking a huge song. And like, if you're 10 or 11, that tickles you in the right spot. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't even know if I discovered my yet,
Yeah.
But so I liked rap, and then I don't remember exactly which comes first, but when Public Enemy and Anthrax do Bring the Noise, my aunt worked at a record store, and she got me Attack of the Killer Bees by Anthrax, that's where the song got released. And all of a sudden, I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I didn't know, there's genres. Like, this Anthrax shit's crazy.
Yeah.
Milk was my favorite song. Sure. I'm a kid. You're singing about fucking cereal and whatever. But, and then Nirvana Teen Spirit comes out on MTV. And I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, I don't even know if it was the music or if it was just the imagery.
Yeah, that video was wild. The video was wild, right?
Dude, anarchy cheerleaders, and it's fucking so cool. So right around this time, we moved to Newbury Park. And first day of school, obviously I don't know anyone, but I was into skateboarding. I was really, really heavy into skateboarding. Got my first skateboard in '84, and skateboarding was life. But at the same turn, like, I didn't really pay attention to the music in videos. I just was only focused on the skating. Like, it just was background music. So I moved to this new town, and of course, because I'm wearing, like a Plan B t-shirt or who knows what, some kind of skateboarding paraphernalia, instantly the skaters come up to me like, oh, who are you? What do you do? Okay, cool. Find us at lunch. And right off the bat, people were cool. Like, I don't know if that happens anymore. I feel like everyone's got a chip on the shoulder, even at young ages. But for whatever reason, these kids were fucking super cool.
Well, let's talk about that, Corey. Let's wax poetic. I think that's because maybe everything is accessible now, right? Like, you can be into everything and read about it on the internet, where back then, like, you kind of latch onto one thing, and so you find like these common bonds with other people that decided to latch onto the same thing.
I mean, perfect example. Back then, I mean, even like not when you're a kid, even teenager, young 20s, you saw a dude in a hardcore shirt, you'd say, what's up? If you didn't like go up and like say hello and meet them, you give them a nod or whatever, and it was like, oh, cool, we're in the same shit. Like, now I see someone in a hardcore shirt, like, you just don't, like, even someone who's knows better doesn't do that shit anymore. So it's kind of fucked up, but that's exactly it. And so, the first guy I meet is this dude Greg. He's one of my best friends now to this day, and we did everything together all the way through school and everything. But so right off the bat, I think he had Suicidal Tendencies, Lights, Camera, and he was like, yo, let's trade cassettes. So I gave him Anthrax, he gave me Suicidal, and that blew my mind. Fucking mind-blowing. I mean, to hear that the first time and in comparison to anything else. So next thing, one of the other dudes gives me Seasons of the Abyss. Now my mind's exploding. Like, it's just getting better and better every time I trade a cassette with somebody. And, so all within this first year, this is like 8th grade, 92, I think. You know, I got Used It Today, Gorilla Biscuits, Minor Threat, and a bunch of other bands. And I think the main person was Andrew, the drummer of Eyelid. He was an insane drummer, and Eyelid wasn't a band yet, but for some reason he knew about things before we did. But I think he's like a perfectionist. Like, like when we're just watching skate videos and being like, oh, that trick was crazy, he was probably picking up on every band that played in every part, and you know what I mean? Like, he knew about shit.
Yeah, he's one of those dudes. Just one of those dudes.
Yeah, so he was, exposing us all to more than just what was on the surface. And so that was really cool. At the same time too, my mom worked with a lady, and she tells this lady like, oh yeah, my kid's like into this like punk hardcore stuff, and she's like old school punk chick. Like, I don't know what year she got into it, but she was definitely a lot older than me, and she knew about everything. So I don't know if it was like a Memorex tape or something, but dude, she gave me like a 2-hour like compilation cassette, and it fucking had everything you could think of on it. I mean, it had Husker Du, it had SSD, Minor Threat, Circle Jerks. I mean, you name it, and it was on this cassette. So now I'm like really learning about like history, but because things not readily available, where the fuck do you find this shit?
Right.
We had a local record store, and they didn't really like keep punk shit in stock. Like, they didn't carry stuff from like typical record labels, but they usually had some really cool used records. So you could find used stuff there every once in a while. And then eventually, we found, I think it was called Best Records in Simi Valley, and they carried everything. They carried all the Rev, Victory, New Age. They carried all that stuff. So we started kind of like finding out about things on our own once we started shopping there. My dad always lived in Oxnard, and so every once in a while he'd take me to Salzer's, and I'd find something there. But most of it at this point is just trading cassettes.
Yeah,
and
you never went to the second story on Salzer's though and bought a bong.
Yeah, no bongs. But I wasn't straight edge. I didn't do anything, but I never claimed straight edge. I didn't understand it yet, and like I knew like you don't just say you're something you're not.
Right.
I knew I didn't like alcohol. Like, booze was around all the time. I wouldn't say any of my parents were alcoholics. Like, I don't know. Maybe my dad was, maybe he wasn't. I'm not sure. But, like, he'd be having a beer, and instead of like going to get me something, be like, here, take a swig. And it was disgusting. So I knew I didn't like beer. And then there was a few other times that he had a shitty girlfriend, and she'd pass me a drink, and it would have liquor in it, and it just wasn't into it. So I didn't like drinking. But that doesn't say like, maybe I would like it later. I don't know. So we move on to high school, and now there's like, it's weird because now I go from like the small group of people who were into cool shit. Like the skaters was, there was like two groups of skaters. They were all friends, but a little bit different. Like there was the hardcore skaters, but then there was like the other skaters that we'd chill with and skate with, but like they were more into like, some of them did drugs, but they listened mostly like death metal. So that was also like first exposure to, you know, uh, Sepultura and Deicide, and I remember this one kid like he loved death. It was just like Slayer sucks because they don't know how to play guitar. The dude in Death is a real guitar player, and it's like, yo, it sounds cool to me. I don't give a fuck.
That's a pretty high bar. That's a pretty high bar to set. If you can't play like Chuck, you're fucking sorry.
Yeah. I mean, like it's like, yeah, it's crazy. Like everyone's supposed to be the best guitar player on earth. Get out of here.
Yeah.
But so we move on to high school, and there's like weird factions of like different groups, and I don't know any of them yet, and I'll start meeting them because almost all of them skate also. So it's like you catch them at the park or what skate spot we're at, and so I think the first group of dudes I kind of meet are these dudes in this band Rainchild, and some of those dudes would go on to do Countervail, but those are the guys we first meet, and they're not like, I guess they were more like typical hardcore dudes at the time because they weren't so narrow minded. Like they listened to like all kinds of different types of music, like anything that was like underground, they would listen to. Like they were very open minded. They were super cool, and then we also met this dude Russ, who was the singer of Eyelid,
mm-hmm.
And then there was a couple other guys. I think they were like into graffiti or something, but we knew that they were hardcore dudes as well.
Corey, were the Strouser brothers in Rainchild?
No. So Rainchild was fuck, I can't remember everyone who was in the band. Casey was the singer. Okay. Casey was the singer. This dude Nate played guitar, who he played in Countervail at one point. I think maybe in the later era of the band.
Okay.
Our buddy Hugo, and this dude Ray, and so they were just these awesome dudes that you know went to shows and stuff, and then, but I didn't know about going to shows yet. Like I knew that they skated, I knew that they liked cool music. I didn't know that going to see these bands was like a thing yet. You know what I mean? You didn't just pull up YouTube and like watch a video. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now here's where the Strauss brothers kind of come in. So Chris, the younger one, he's like a year or two younger than me. And Nick's the same age. So something happens, and Nick and Chris lives in Thousand Oaks, which is the neighboring town. And for some reason, Nick starts coming to our school. Now, this is like my game-changing moment, mind-blowing thing. So he's just like, oh, yeah, cool, you know, check this out. And he gives me a cassette of Integrity, Those Who Fear Tomorrow, and Ringworm, The Promise. Fucking, my head is exploding with how incredible this shit is. Like, it's just unreal.
It's apex.
So, yeah, oh, dude, I mean, because this is also like, you know, we're listening, you know, like on any like cassette tape someone makes you, like say someone makes you like a comp tape, you know, it's like you got Firestorm, you got Undertow, it might have a song from Ashes, Gorilla Biscuits, you know, so hardcore is so weird and diverse at the time because it was the same thing. Like it wasn't subgenres, and you know, all these bands were like on same type of labels. So it was kind of wild that it was all, deemed hardcore.
Yeah.
Because, you're young, you don't really know what the difference of any of this shit is. You just know that it does something different to you. And so Nick becomes kind of the person that, like, I'm really diving into his world. Now, the Strouser brothers, they were already kind of like in with the whole, like, One Truth crew, like all the Strife dudes and the Conejo Valley guys. And at this point, I didn't even know Strife was local. Like, I didn't know they were from our town. Like they played some shows, but once again, like I said, like, I didn't know shows were around. They weren't happening. I didn't see flyers. I think it was more in our area. It was kind of word of mouth. Like, if you knew somebody, you knew where to go and where to be. So didn't really meet anybody, but they had like a different outlook on cool bands. Like I think they might have been where I heard Chain of Strength for the first time. But Nick's the one that exposed me to Power Violence. Once again, mind blowing. He gives me a copy of the Infest LP. Once again, like, not now we're talking like top 3 bands records of all time for me. Like, obviously with like the bands I've been in, I mean, you can tell the influence, but Infest was the number one. And then not the sidestep, but like, so I'm in class with him and hanging out with him, and this dude Mike Harley, yeah, he was just a dude that skated. He had parties and he had bands play at his house, and he had become straight edge sometime just before, like, I became friends with him. Like, we always heard, like, he did shit, but I never saw it. From my friendship with him, like, as long as I knew him, he had been straight edge. And I really started discovering some stuff with him because I don't know if it was brand new to him too or whatnot, but he was a few years older, and he would drive us to record stores, and you just buy anything that has a picture that looks like a hardcore dude. If a dude's got an X on his hand, you buy it. If you see a T-shirt they're wearing, you buy it. And so Mike, who later becomes the singer of Countervail, he definitely exposed me to another different side of things. Like, now I'm listening to more European bands, like a lot of like the Ume straight edge hardcore scene was at Norway, or Sweden, excuse me. Like Refused, Shield, Final Exit, which Final Exit's like another band that I love, and I discovered Converge from him, and then so now it's like, now the world is getting extra metal. You know what I mean? Like, way crazy, different than everything. Around this time, I found AF Cause for Alarm, Victim in Pain split CD for 99 cents at the local, like, used record store. Insane, unreal. Funny, I think I got it might have been like the later years of high school. I scored like a copy of like Best Wishes Cro-Mags, and I was just like, the fuck is this butt rock shit? And then years later, I learned otherwise, but I thought it was just some weird metal shit that I couldn't get around Harley's voice. Eventually, when I heard Age of Quarrel, I got more into it, and then found my way back to Best Wishes just because the production is so perfect. But back to high school. So like Nick, Russ from Eyelid, like they were on the inside circle with Andrew and Greg and a couple of these other dudes. This dude Jim Bates, who ended up becoming a professional skateboarder, mind blowing skater. But we were kind of like our little skate circle. We were the dudes that were really really into hardcore. There were some other people too that later would kind of fit into. But I think it was 95 was finally the first like real show. I've been like a couple of little small like local things, but the first real show is Strife Snapcase, Undertow, Ignite, 1134, and Pale Fire at Las Palmas Theater in Hollywood.
Jesus.
And the lineup was stacked. The venue was a little weird, because it was like a real theater. Like it had seating, like it was like a stage for plays, but they had removed enough rows of seats where like there was like a pit area in front. And I don't know the exact time frame, but they either filmed the One Truth video, the Strife video for Victory. It was either like just before that, or that was the first show of everything that they filmed for it. So like there's some footage of that show in there, and it's like crazy. All the bands were so fucking amazing. And that's the night I meet everyone, because now it's like like, oh hey, this is Rick from Strife, this is Andrew from Strife, this is Sid from Strife, this is blah 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 blah. Like so and so, you're with so and so from the same town, so now you're so and so friend, cool, hey what's up, So I'm meeting everyone from like my hometown that I didn't know was from like my home area. It was so weird, and then kind of starstruck, you're a high school kid and you're watching these bands that are blowing your mind and you're like hanging out with them, but like not friends with anyone from that. It was just like cool that you meet them. And then 95 becomes kind of crazy because I got lucky. I didn't have a curfew. Like the rule with my mom was, as long as I know where you are, what time you're going to be home, and that you're up at 6 whatever in the morning to be on time for school, I don't give a shit. I'm sure it might not have been worded so loosely, but it worked. So we were driving to places like Showcase Theater, the Riverside and Barn, the Barn in Riverside, the Living Room in Goleta, Jerry's Pizza in Bakersfield. We're doing these drives on weekdays, and LA traffic's terrible. Getting to the Inland Empire is a nightmare. So, sometimes it's 2-3 hours each way, but whatever, anything for the cause. There wasn't really local shows. There would end up being some kind of epic local shows, but they were few and far between, like less than a handful. And I remember I worked at a grocery store, and Sid from Strife was shopping, and he looks at me, he's just like, do I know you? I was like, well, we met, I saw your band last night. He's like, you saw us at the Showcase last night. I said, yeah. And I answered it like it was normal. Like that was like the common thing you did. You drive to the fucking end of the earth to go see a band. And from that point on, Sid treated me awesome. He worked at a skate shop, so we'd go and hang out at the skate shop with him. He got me to some shows for free. And he treated me really good. And through that, I kind of became better friends with with Andrew. I felt like we hung out at Andrew's apartment every day, and we probably didn't, but it sure feels like that in my memories. And uh, like their roadies, like Tony, Justin, and Austin, um, Jesse Austin, excuse me, and just you see people around town. Everywhere you go, you see someone you know, and now it's like it's really dialing in on like what this is. You know what I mean? Like how cool and to be a part of something that's epic. And
Yeah, and it really
and that's
does
kind
feel
of,
like a part of something when you're young. Like you are looking for like a belonging, right? And the flag to fly.
yeah, because it's like now you're meeting people from other towns. Like, um, I don't know if this is maybe I don't know what year, but like not straight too far. Like there was a house show, and we went to the house show because I think Strife was supposed to play. Maybe they did. Maybe I don't really remember. But that band Insurgents played, and this is the first time I'm seeing Insurgents. And I met Vic Galindo from Collision One Choice, and he drove like fucking 3 hours from where the fuck he lives in the desert to come see a house show on a weekday. So now, like, I've become really good friends with Vic and Louie. Start seeing them at all the shows and stuff. And now it's so crazy that like you're a high school kid and you're making friends with people from towns you've never even fucking heard of. You couldn't find them on a map, but like they're into what you're into, and they're cool because of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're drawn to the people that have like the same psycho dedication that you do, right? Like, oh, that guy drove
Yeah,
from like Temecula all the way to this house show. Like, that's the same shit as me driving from here to Jerry's Pizza. So, like, this guy,
yeah,
I got something in common with him.
yeah, exactly. So, uh, like I said, I don't know exact time frames, but now like Eyelid jumping off, like they're playing shows all the time. So we're going out everywhere we can to see Eyelid. Um, and so now it's like in our area, you got Eyelid, Strife, and Insurgents, and all these bands are fucking awesome, putting on amazing shows, meeting more people. Luckily, when people in the band, you just meet more people. It's just easier. And I think that's just being fortunate. You just happen to be growing up with somebody that it makes it easier to meet people or whatever. And maybe it was just I'm a little more outgoing, or I don't know, but I felt like I was timid at the time. So
Corey, let's talk about that first show that you went to. To circle back to it, like, because you say
sure.
you say all the bands are awesome, but like, what did it feel like sonically to you? Because like you've been listening to extreme music for a few years now, and now like you get to see it live, and anyone listening to this podcast, and you and me, of course, we know that like it is the best setting for this music. In fact, like without that, it
Oh,
would lose a lot. So what does it feel like being in the room, and how much like are you taken aback by it? Do you participate the first night, or are you just like kind of in awe?
my mind's so blown. Like, I don't think I really moved from my spot. Like participating, like I wasn't interested in like figuring out what moshing was or stage diving. Like my jaw was on the floor, seeing these bands. You know, um, like Ignite. I don't know how long Zoli had been in the band. Maybe he was like recently in the band. But like hearing that shit, I was just like, this sounds so crazy. This dude's voice is insane. Like I was expecting, some guys to scream, but it was so different. Um, and then I don't remember the lineup of the bands. I want to say maybe Undertow headlined. Fuck, I don't know, but um, Strife was the craziest thing you could ever imagine.
Of course.
There was a dog. Yeah. Oh, you're cool. So at one point, there's a dog pile, and the dog pile is probably taller than your average person. There was probably like 30 people on this pile. And I remember after the show, Rick saying, like, I'm overhearing him, like, telling somebody that he thought his lungs were being crushed, like he was going to fucking die under there. He was biting someone's leg, try to get people off of him because he couldn't move his arms to push them off or whatever. So his only reaction was, I need to fucking fight this person to save my fucking life.
Just went feral.
So, so I'm hearing this shit, like, this guy's fucking crazy. He's fucking biting people. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And my memory of Snapcase, like, I really liked that Looking Glass Self record, and seeing them live, and they sounded great, but I don't really remember if it was like super wild. I'm sure it was, but I remember Undertow, like 4-piece. They were just fucking. They were pretty wild for a 4-piece, and they still sounded good. And I think I remember, like, I was expecting Strife to be insane, but I didn't know what to expect. Like, I'm pretty sure I had heard Undertow, but maybe I wasn't that familiar. So it was like a newer, eye-opening experience, like seeing them live. So that show was just like, that was the best gateway drug ever, because it was like, if you went to that show and you didn't need more, like, you were definitely in the wrong lifestyle. Like, you're either deaf or blind and just didn't have a heartbeat or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a good way. That's a good way to put it, though. Like a gateway drug, like, because it's like you are slamming heroin the first time, and like the rest of your life, you're like chasing that dragon. Like, how can I see a show that's like that packed, that gnarly, with a lineup that like thick? Just going for it.
And I think it like sets the standard of like what you should expect from bands live.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you see Strife and they're flying through the air, guitars are flying, fucking Rick's bleeding everywhere, and they still sound good. And then you see another band and it's like they got cement shoes, no one looks excited, and it's like, I don't really care how good of music they play. Like, if you don't look like you're having fun, enjoying it, and you're not full of energy, like, why should I give you that in return? And so I think that, like, set the bar really high for what to expect out of bands.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was also crazy because, like, that venue was big. Like, I don't remember how many people were there, obviously, but there was probably like 1,000 people squeezed into that theater. Probably didn't hold 1,000, but there was, probably 1,000 in there or something. And not every show is going to be that big. And I think maybe the next show I go to would be at the Macondo in Hollywood on Melrose, like the rougher side of Melrose. I mean, before Hollywood got nice. And it was literally like a tiny little storefront with a tiny little stage, and you're literally packed like sardines. So it was cool to see a more realistic side of hardcore. Like your average show is going to be more like this.
Right. You're seeing both ends of it, and you love both.
Yeah. So now it's like the stage is like a foot tall or something, and you're literally breathing the show. You know what I mean? Between the sweat being poured on you by everyone else, and fucking the singers grabbing hold of you and screaming in your face, and you're screaming back, and I don't really remember at what point I became like super active at shows, like stage diving and stuff. I think it was more just like when our friends' bands played, like say like Eyelid and stuff, we'd be up front sing along for them, and then maybe I was a little timid and sat back to see, who these other bands were, and obviously like, it's hardcore. Like bands have their own groups of friends, and their own groups of friends all act differently depending on, the style of the band or maybe the particular town you're in, the venue you're at. So we didn't really know exactly what was like the correct behavior for all time. Like I didn't know you staged over at every band and everything. I didn't know that yet.
Yeah, and also like mid '90s hardcore is pretty clicky. So like what you're saying makes sense. Like you put on for your friends' bands to try to make them, not to try to make them you love them, but you're supporting your friends' bands to make them look good too. Like up front singing along for them.
Yeah, exactly. It's just what you did. And I remember we went to see Strife and Warzone at Showcase, and I remember like Nick Strauser and Andrew was just like, yo, you guys gotta watch Warzone. I don't think I'd actually even heard Warzone yet, or no. What year did what was it? The Sound of Revolution on Victory. What year did that record come out?
I think '96.
That might have been. This might have been the tour to support that record.
It was.
And I remember
it's my number one show regret ever, because it was right before I drove, and so that show was going to be in Santa Barbara, and it got shut down. It got shut down before the show, and then like I didn't have a ride to Showcase, so then I never saw Warzone because that was the last time they came out here.
Well, no, Warzone came out one more time with The Business the next year.
I was thinking it was The Business show. That's what it was. That's the one I missed. So yeah, you might be talking 95.
So maybe, this might be like late 95. So, so we go to the show. Show's awesome. This is also the first time that like I didn't really see it, but now I'm hearing about like boneheads at shows. Like Nazis. Like I didn't know like what band shirts to look for other than like, like, oh, that dude's got a swastika on his arm or something. And I remember Rabies had said something on stage, and like being a little Jew dude, I was just like, oh my God, this dude's great. He's calling out people fucking, so it was one thing that like Strife being a straight edge band, I can't really remember Rick other than obviously their t-shirts and their songs and stuff being about straight edge. But Rick was always one that spoke about unity, and everything was always about unity. And now, I'm seeing this dude Rabies up there, same thing on a whole different kind of level, because now it's like, now I'm seeing like a real difference in a crowd. Like this, now all these skinheads, and I don't know what's traditional, what's not traditional, neo-Nazi, bonehead, fucking, dickheads and shit. But Warzone was incredible. And like, it was like the next day I was working at the mall, and Andrew's at the mall with Warzone. And it's like, oh, hey, Corey, what's up? And I'm like, the fuck is Warzone doing in my fucking mall?
So rad.
Dude, yeah. And I don't know how long Ray had been straight edge at this point, but I was wearing our friend Ian had made these triple X like knockoff shirts. It was like the AAA Auto Club, but it said Triple X, like Conejo Valley Straight Edge or something like that. And it was just like to rep for the local area. And Ray had to have one. So, dude, I run back to work. I start making all these phone calls. At the time, I think we had pagers still. I was getting on cell phones. So, like, fucking paging people. And someone brought a T-shirt to Ray. And so he got one of our one of my buddy's straight edge shirts, and so it was cool to like hang out and chat with these dudes because like now it's like now I'm like meeting dudes from New York and not quite knowing how fucking epic that band really was, and so you start digging and experiencing more and learning and very cool to have met that band.
Yeah, and it's opening you up of
in that manner.
how like big this thing really is. Like, oh shit, it goes
Exactly.
beyond like Southern California. It's like it's a nationwide thing. It's a worldwide thing. But dude,
Yeah,
can you imagine if you would have
it,
gotten a photo with Warzone at Hot Dog on a Stick?
dude. You know what's fucked up is I worked at a camera store developing film, and I didn't just steal a camera off the fucking shelf and go take a picture. What kind of fucking idiot?
Yeah.
But it's like it's those same terms. Like we didn't do selfies back then. Like
right.
a picture got taken in in the proper moment. But
yeah, you're right. Like photos, like we didn't take a lot of photos because like when you'd go get like a roll developed, it would be like 4 months worth of like memories, like, oh shit.
Dude, and there's only like 20 something pictures on that roll,
Exactly.
so fucking weird, just signs of the times.
Yeah.
And so now I'm not really sure, once again, like I've been hitting the head a lot of times, so my memory's a little jumbled, but so now Eyelids like not a full time, but they're doing like these awesome tours. And at some point, our buddy Gabe and that dude Mike Hartley, Nick Strauser, Ray, and Chris, they start Countervail. And once again, hometown buddies, got to go crazy for them. And they're starting to play Orange County a lot more. So now we're finding ourselves not just going to these big shows at like Showcase in the Barn. Now we're going to like house shows in Orange County and going to all these like smaller things and like meeting a whole nother group of people. And it was weird because like I never noticed there was like a divide between like Orange County and LA or Conejo Valley or San Diego or anything like that. Maybe because I was just younger and blind to it. Like you always hear stories that there was like beef or maybe not beef, but like drama or whatever. And I didn't really ever see it. But Counterville starts like going on some tours, and they're shedding light on all kinds of new bands from the East Coast because at this point now, 10 Yard Fight and Floor Punch had already started playing shows, and hardcore might have started being a little bit more segregated on the East Coast. I only say that because like when you look at flyers there didn't seem as diverse as say like the shows that we were going to. But I mean that could have just been those isolated flyers that we saw. And through Countervail, that's how we met Zarian. Zarian was either still living in Boston or he'd gone back to Boston just to visit, and he became friends with the Strauser brothers. So through Nick and Chris, we meet Zarian and JP, Matt, and those dudes. And those dudes were all like super into Unbroken. I remember like the Rainchild guys and like in that group, the dudes that ended up being in Countervail and stuff, their band was Unbroken. So we were I didn't see a difference like straight edge, non-straight edge, like good bands were good bands, and that's all that really mattered. And I didn't make it to the last Unbroken show at Shea, but I think I don't know the time frame. Shortly, maybe it was the same weekend, maybe it was like a month before, but they played the last Mean Season show at Showcase. I did go to that, and I think that was the only time I saw Unbroken, and they were mind blowing. Like it was different, like dudes are on stage and they got slick hair and they're wearing fucking shirts and ties and stuff, but it didn't. I don't know if it did. It didn't matter like what they were wearing, you know what I mean? Because the second they started playing, it was total fucking chaos. And Unbroken was fucking awesome. They were awesome. I only saw them once. I regret not seeing them more as well. But now with Countervail going to the East Coast, discovering 10-Yard Fight and Floor Punch and that shit through them, now I'm kind of finding what I'm actually into. Like I might like all these other bands and stuff. Like I'm not saying I stopped liking them. Obviously, I mean I still listen to Converge and shit like that. But like all of a sudden, like 10-Yard Fight demo, I'm like, yeah, saying about football, I don't relate to football, but the music, the whole like Youth Crew revival, Youth of Today is possibly my all-time favorite hardcore band. And so now I'm hearing like new bands kind of sounding like Youth of Today, and I definitely felt more of a connection to like fast hardcore. That's probably why, like, if Strife wasn't as big as they were, it wouldn't have mattered because they still played fast. Like, What Will Remain is still my favorite song from Strife. And I know you're friends with Mandel, and I watched Mandel sing What Will Remain one time, and he was a fucking savage on the mic. I always wished he would have had time to sing in a band or something or whatever, but it was fucking awesome. And so
you start connecting with this like East Coast stuff, and does it sound more palatable to you that you're like, oh, actually, instead of like being a participant, I can actually maybe do a band?
Well, no. So now, as far as doing a band, I don't even know an instrument. Like, I don't even own an instrument. I was a photographer. So I was actually taking pictures of all these bands when I wasn't stage diving and sing along. Like, I was photographing bands, and that was my thing. Like, me and Greg, we took pictures. If I wasn't taking pictures, he was, or vice versa, and we would, trade photos and so photography was actually like my first way of participating or giving back to hardcore, not just by like giving them $5 at the door. You know what I mean? Like taking pictures of bands and giving them the photos. And I remember I still lived in my mom's house, and Mike Steve from Brothers Keeper called my mom's house, and they needed verbal permission to use one of my photos on a record, which is, I have no idea what photo it was or what the record looks like. but I know it's there, Second in My Eyes LP has one of my photos on the cover of Anthony. And then the Super Soul comp that I believe Ray Capital put out, they used another In My Eyes photo of mine in that record. So I've had some cool photos printed. Terrors used a few of my photos, but I guess going back to learning how to play an instrument, I don't really know exactly what age I was. So let's see, I met you dudes in 97. So probably the same year. So probably 97, I'm 19. And I took my buddy Katie to Guitar Center for some reason. Um, and we're at Guitar Center, and he's like, dude, you should learn how to play guitar. I was like, I don't know how to fucking play guitar. I don't know anything about it. So he convinces me to buy this like $99 Epiphone or whatever the fuck it is, thinking this dude's gonna fucking show me something. He was an awesome guitar player. He never showed me a fucking single thing. He never even showed me how to make a fucking power chord. So, uh, so I have this fucking guitar, and I'm not really figuring it out. And then a couple of dudes from school, this dude Chris Poley, he played bass. I don't remember who else, but a bunch of guys came over to the house to jam, and someone kind of showed me, and it didn't do anything more than like a half hour of us just like hanging out in my room. And someone was like, maybe you should just try to play bass. Just use one finger and slide it around a bunch. So I think I traded that guitar to someone for their bass just to like play on. And I figured out Just Look Around by Sick of It All. So I was like, oh, maybe I can do this on my own. And then my buddy Adrian shows up and he's got a guitar. I won't go into how he gets the guitar, but he gives me, I don't remember what I traded him for or if I paid him money. I don't remember, but I get a brand new cherry red gold hardware Studio Les Paul from them for like next to nothing. It could have been for nothing. I don't really remember, but Adrian was that kind of dude. He was just an incredible friend. And so I have this insane Gibson Studio Les Paul. So now I'm trying to figure things out on guitar, and I'm sure someone showed me, a few things at this point, and I figure out how to play. I think like Inner Struggle from Strife, and obviously everyone can figure out how to play Firestorm from Earth Crisis, and so I can play like a handful of hardcore songs, and now Eyelids on tour with 10-Yard Fight and Battery. And I don't think I had heard the Battery album yet, but someone had given me a copy of the Battery 7-inch from when Brian was like 13 and he sang on it. And I loved it. I thought that was awesome too. So we're excited to see 10-Yard Fight, obviously, and, our friends at Eyelid and stuff. So I don't remember if the Showcase or the Pickle Patch was first, but I remember taking photos of the Showcase. I don't know if the Pickle Patch or the Showcase was first, but I knew I took photos of both because I definitely had photos of 10-Yard Fight from the Showcase, and I must have been taking pictures of the Pickle Patch because Todd Jones ends up getting my contact info from somebody. Maybe Zarian, because he saw, we were friends with Zarian, or I don't know. But so I get a call. This dude's got a fanzine and he needs photos. And what do I do with my photos? And so he's going to come to my house, come look at photos. And this 16-year-old kid shows up at my house. And I'm only like 19, so it's not like a kid. There's only 3 year difference. But like I feel like Todd was always business in some sort of way. You know what I mean? Like, so I think I gave him like a ton of pictures, or he was going to use a ton of pictures. And I don't know if that next issue of his zine ever came out. I don't really remember, but he saw that I had a guitar and was like, "Oh, you play guitar?" And I was like, "Sort of, not really. Like I can play this song." He's like, "Oh, that's good enough." He goes, "Yo, let's jam." It's like, "All right, let's jam." So I went to his house and he already had like one of the songs that would later become a Stand Your Ground song. He's like, yo, tell me, try this out. And I feel like the riff was like more difficult than like the Strife song I knew how to play.
Yeah.
But I kind of followed it, and he's like, yeah, it's good enough, man. We should do a fucking band together. And like, I was like, all right, if you think that's good enough, let's do it. And so that was kind of like how Stand Your Ground started. And I think I want to say maybe we jammed again, and Aaron was there. And then now it was like, okay, we're gonna do this band, and we went to Tony's house, and then that's when I met Tony and Max. I might have met Madball that same time because like dudes were always chilling at Tony's house, and we wrote the demo and stuff, and it's funny. I always hear you guys talking about recording with John Lyons, and dude, I didn't know how to play guitar as it was, let alone know anything about who to talk to about recording or how recording works. I didn't even know how to fucking play guitar. So we go to record at the living room with John Lyons. And I think because I was so bad at guitar, playing live was like the only way I would have gotten through it. Like if we tracked each instrument and I had to like try to play along to the recording, I never would have fucking made through it. So recording live definitely worked out, and hopefully they just turned me down in the mix because I didn't know how to play guitar. But so now here comes the next key for like being a hardcore kid in the 90s. So I now work at Kinko's Copies.
Yes.
And if you didn't have a hardcore kid working at your Kinko's in your town, you were fucking up, because we did record covers, stickers, zines, flyers. We fucking made everything, and we made sure it was next to free, if not free, for any hardcore kid. And so the one that I worked at, it's kind of crazy. Like, I believe Mandel worked there at one point. Sid from Strife worked there. I think maybe Rick from Strife had worked there at one point. My good friend Eric worked there. This dude Mike Moss worked there. Tons of hardcore kids worked there. Greg worked there, and it was just like anyone who wanted anything. And I think you came and you did some Camel Clutch covers and shit. And I remember that, like, when I was working like the night shift, if you came at night and you hung out with me or you brought me food, you had free reign to do whatever the fuck you wanted. And I don't know how many people's zines we did, how many thousands of flyers and shit like that. And so, where the fuck am I going with this story? I guess it's just nostalgia of the area, like Conejo Valley hardcore, like
so rad.
revolved around.
Yeah, you had to before, because they rotated through some different payment types, so you didn't need the hookup once they went to that like that key. They had like the counter on it, because once they got to there, then anyone could go print for free, because you just print 1 million copies and then you just whack the key on the ground, and it like you would jumble it, and then you'd be like, oh, I made 20 flyers, and you got 2,000 fucking prints in your backpack. But yeah. So you guys record this. So you guys do Stand Your Ground. You recorded demo at the living room. Did you record the demo before you ever played a show?
No, I think we do play a show before the demo, because I think there was a live photo that Greg took.
That's on the demo.
The demo that was a show. So like Collision was playing the Cobalt Cafe, and I don't remember really who else played the show. Maybe maybe like the early era of ALC or some of those dudes. And they're playing the show at the Cobalt, and Vic calls me and he's like, "Hey, we need a band to play the show. Are you guys ready to play a show?" I'm like, "Fuck, I don't know. I think we only had like 4 songs or something at the time." And so I call Todd. And Todd's like, "Fuck it, let's do it." So we played the show. We just show up. We played a couple songs we had, and that was it. And it was fucking awesome. You know, like now I'm realizing that like being an awesome guitar player is not my calling, but like being wild on stage is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, like this
Yeah.
this is fucking awesome. And like this is still the era that like moshing really isn't moshing yet. You know what I'm saying? Like dudes are clap dancing and stage diving and sing along. Like, and that's like the wild side of hardcore at this time. So we make as like legit demos as we possibly can. I make all these like crazy full color demo covers. Like it's like comes from some printer for Revelation Records or some shit. And we started playing shows, and you know, we played some cool shows. Like I think we played with Shutdown and the what was it, JP's Barn, what they call the Doghouse.
Yeah.
That show was fucking awesome. Voice played the same shows as Stand Your Ground, right?
Yep. Yep.
Or with, yeah, and then was that also the Built to Last show? I can't keep track because Built to Last was one show, and then 25 to Life was another show.
Yeah, there was only 3 shows ever. So it was that 25 to Life Powerhouse and Voice played. That was one show, and then I think it was Built to Last, Collision, and maybe Stand Your Ground. And then I think we did like Missing 23rd, Stand Your Ground, and like Life's Halt on a different show.
Yeah, that's right. Life's Halt did play there. Okay.
Yeah, so I think you did 2 out of the 3.
Yeah, I didn't play the 25 to Life show because I couldn't make it to that one.
Right.
And so we're playing shows and like I think this is like a weird thing because like now that I'm older, hardcore's kind of like starting to feel different. Like it's starting to feel segregated. You know what I mean? Like a lot of those like more metal bands from Orange County and things like that, like Adamantium and shit are happening and I don't really know, like, but I always felt like Stand Your Ground either was or felt like the whole like Nardcore thing. Like I think at the time I didn't get it. You know what I mean? I didn't get that it was more just like an attitude, you know, because of like where you're from versus like you had to be from Oxnard. And I don't know. I always felt like in that band that like I didn't fit. Like I wasn't intended to be in that band because I wasn't from Oxnard. But this is like in my head. Like no one ever really made me feel that way.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about fucking Tony, Max, Aaron, and Todd, you know, and then like I'm seeing you on the regular. I'm seeing Fredette on the regular. I'm seeing fucking Hammer on the regular. Madball. You know, Adam, excuse me, and fucking all you dudes are fucking treating me like I'm just the dude that's there hanging out all the time. Like I'm just one of you guys. And for some reason, I'm just like, I don't feel like I fit in this band. Maybe it's because I sucked at guitar and I was like looking for an excuse. I don't really know. And so it's like the day before we're supposed to record the 7-inch for Jitsu, and I just like quit over the phone like a fucking pussy. Like I didn't do it. I didn't do it face to face with anybody, and like didn't have like at the time it was like a legit feeling like I felt out of place. But when I think back, I'm just like, you're a moron. Like no one ever made me feel like out of place. I think it was like I wasn't putting two and two together right. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't tuned in to the vibe you dudes were living because I wasn't there. You know what I mean? And
Well, it goes back to being
it
younger.
had
It's younger, and everyone wants to fly a flag, right? And so yeah, it's
exactly.
like if you don't feel fully included in something for whatever reason it is, it might push you away. But Corey, I wanted to do one other standing ground story before that, or I mean, we did that. Let's circle
Okay.
back though. So there was a time that we were going to play. I wasn't in the band yet, but I think Max couldn't do a show, so I was going to fill in on bass, and we were going to play the Club Bullocks. Do you remember this? And you got lost.
Oh, dude.
You were going to, this is so of the time, right? Because like, so
Yeah.
we go and you're driving separate because we went in Aaron's van and you were going to come and meet us there.
Yep.
But literally like you got lost and it's like pre cell phone, right? So you just can't find the club. So you don't show up and play. What was your side of it?
Oh my. So fucking. This is insane. So like, yeah, there's no cell phones, there's no MapQuest, there's no GPS. You have a Thomas guide, or like you're just reflections on like, you've been to that club before, so you have an idea how to get there. Now, Bullocks, I don't remember exactly what streets it was on, and that show was sick too because I believe it was visual discrimination.
Yeah, it was VD
right?
on that comeback 7-inch, and I want to say, I can't remember, some other like kind of like power violence-y band. Like,
yeah, I just remember VD was on it.
It was lack of interest.
Lack of interest. Yeah, sick.
Yeah.
So it's in like East LA, or not East LA. It's in like South Central somewhere, like somewhere south of the 10, where it's just not really safe.
It was the most. It was the most hood club, like for sure.
Yeah. So I got fucked up instructions, and the phone number of the flyer is not getting to anybody or whatever. So we literally drove around, I think, for like 2.5 hours. Because we're like, fuck it, we're not going to go home. Let's just keep driving around. If we miss our set, fuck it, we'll get there. And finally, we got pulled over by the cops, I believe. And they were like, "What's home?" And he simply could have just been like, "Oh, you just make a right and a left, go down a couple streets, and it's right there." No, he just told us to get on the fucking freeway and get the fuck out of town. Yeah. So at that point, that's what we did.
Yeah. That's so wild, though, because it's just so of the time. Like, not being able to find the place, right? It's like that just could never happen again now. You know? So fucking cool.
Oh, yeah. Now you get lost, you're just an idiot that can't follow a fucking arrow on a phone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you can be in, like, one of those spots now where, like, there's no service, and, like, I start to almost, like, feel fucking abandoned. You know, it's like how much of a fucking, how much of a puss have I turned into that, like, I need, like, fucking 4 bars, you know, or I don't feel right.
Oh, man.
But I would say that you getting, like, you leaving the band was a positive for, like, building, like, our scene in a way, because you almost immediately go on to Carry On. And I think that made us
sort of, yeah.
Well, and then we got closer with those guys too, and eventually, like, Todd would go and so forth. So let's talk about that transition. So you leave Standing Ground. How do you meet the?
Well, hang on.
Go ahead.
Let's get back to clubs like the Bullets, because we talked about places like Showcase and the Living Room loosely. Let's talk about the fucked up clubs. So, from Nick Strauser, and then my friend Todd Tyler, who's from Broken Needle, they really exposed me to more like bands like Power Violence and like Crust and shit like that. So if you want to see a Power Violence band, you better be prepared to go into the worst fucking neighborhood possible. So one of the worst parts of the valley at the time was Blythe Street in Panorama City, and there was this place, Blythe Street Warehouse, and we were just dumb white kids just fucking rolling into this fucking sketchy neighborhood to just go see power violence bands. Saw lack of interest there. Saw fucking Crom, Gasp, Unruh, Wellington. Saw all these like really cool like crust power violence bands. But that's also how we met Ryan Ober and Little Anthony. They had a band and they played with Countervail at the Blythe Street Warehouse. And then there was this place in LA, like South LA. It was off Washington. It was called Sketa, I believe. And it was one of those places where like you went into the club and no one left until the end of the show. And we saw Spaz there, Phobia, Ruido. I don't know. We saw all kinds of bands there. Then we started going PCH Club, back before when it was only one room, not the opened up two rooms. We saw Ass Suck, believe Los Crudos. But we were going to like fucked up neighborhoods to see bands. And it was like sometimes you're driving 3 hours, sometimes you're just driving to the scariest place on earth and whatever you had to do to see bands. And that's just, once again, hardcore safe now. You don't have to do that no more. But back then you did whatever you had to be a part of it. And so while all this is going on, I leave Stand Your Ground, and I don't say it was right away, but maybe like 6 months go by, and Ryan from Carry On hits me up and says, "Hey, we need a guitar player. Would you be interested?" And so at this point, the band was Persevere, and they changed their band name to Carry On, and they had recorded the Stab in the Face 7-inch, but very shortly after the 7-inch came out, pretty much the whole band either quit or got kicked out. I don't remember all the details, but I think it was still, I think Jason, the drummer, was played on that 7-inch, and then Josh and Jordan were in the band. So then I would become the second guitar player, and they were still from Atascadero and San Luis Obispo. So what the fuck is a dude from Newbury Park going to do joining a band from up there? And so I drove up to practice, and I think I went up a couple times before they told me that I would join the band. But at this point now, well, actually, no, not quite yet. So the infamous Carry On live tape from the living room. They played post Stabbed in the Face lineup, and just before I joined the band, they played that show where that cassette tape got recorded.
So you didn't play that. You didn't play that show.
No,
you were just there.
I didn't play that show.
You were just there.
I was just there hanging out. Yeah.
Yeah, because they basically like write a whole batch of songs that like are between Stabbed in the Face and The Line Is Drawn, and they get recorded at the show.
Yep.
So,
yep. And only a couple of them made it to The Line Is Drawn 7-inch, which is crazy because all those songs were fucking sick. Like they were so good.
Yeah, like that song, The First Step. That song, The First Step, was like one of the best Carry On songs. Dude.
Yeah, and it's only on that cassette. So they asked me to join the band, and I start driving up there every single Thursday,
Jesus.
every Thursday, for who the fuck knows how long until Ryan eventually moved down to LA and stuff.
Yeah, we should say for the people, Corey, like Newbury Park to Tuscadero is probably 3 hours?
Probably more.
Yeah,
I would say
3.5.
I would say like 3.5 to San Luis Obispo, and then like another like half hour or whatever to Atascadero.
Jesus.
But it was even farther because we would practice at Jason's house in Paso Robles, which Ryan lived in like kind of near downtown San Luis Obispo. Josh lived in Atascadero, and then Jordan and Jason both lived in Paso Robles. So, dude, fucking crazy, just stupid things that only young people do.
With dedication.
And but it works out. It works out. So I think like, we started playing shows. Fucking like the Floor Punch show. Like Life's Halt, Carry On, Stand Your Ground, Floor Punch at Laser Star. Like things are starting to happen for the scene that we are now creating. So I feel like as like the hardcore scene that was so alive, built around like Strife and shit, like come like 97, In This Defiance record release was at the Barn with Despair, Hatebreed, and Insurgents. And I feel like everything after that starts becoming heavily segregated, and our style of music, traditional style of hardcore, really didn't have a place anymore. So, none of us are playing shows to anyone more than like 30 to 50 people. And we're talking like, dude, Life's Hall. How fucking awesome is Life's Hall?
Right.
The Life's Hall, No Reply, Collision, Stand Your Ground, Carry On, Built to Last. There's so many amazing bands at the time, but it was all sort of like new. I remember like being labeled, like, oh, you're one of those fucking posse bands. And it's like, just because we have a different outlook doesn't mean we're posse dudes. Like, obviously, I'm not the most posse dude. And even then, when I was, a little more reserved with my attitude, I think that we did what we had to do. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like all of our bands like found ourselves in like weird situations that didn't really happen before. And I guess it was like, maybe because we were doing something a little different than what people expected or what was typical of the time. It was kind of like shit talking or bullying or however you want to look at it. And none of us took it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say we all got in fights all the time, but fights happened. And whether we were fighting, security guards or whoever. And it's not like these fights happened all the time. I mean, there was just, a few that I remember, but no one was going to take any shit from anyone.
Yeah, but I would say I would say what it is this. It's like thinking back on it, like the impetus of like the Floor Punches and the 10-yard fights and these bands, they are a backlash to like a lot of what was going on at the time, right? It's kind of a backlash to like the Victory style and like that heavy style.
Yeah, exactly.
And our scene at that time was very heavily influenced by those East Coast like traditional hardcore revival bands. So like inevitably, because we're like influenced by all that stuff, some people can maybe take it and like oversimplify it, like, oh, these are like the West Coast posse bands, right? And inevitably think that we're a backlash to something, even though it's just like we're just playing the music we like, And
exactly.
And we're like in this little adjacent scene So like I can see how people could think about it that way, even though they were totally wrong. Because if you look at that group of us, like almost to a man, we are like some of the most open-minded people musically there were. You know, like I mean, you talk about your history here of
Yeah,
what different bands you like, or
exactly.
going to what Todd likes or what I like or what Ryan liked or anything. It's like we're actually like the super open-minded people. Like we're not living in a box, you know. But that's just my take on it.
But yeah, and that's exactly it. And so we were finding ourselves having to like discover new venues or book our own shows. And I say our, is a lot of it was like you and Todd. I don't think I ever booked a show in my life, but you know, so
No, but there was
now,
a circuit because like our bands are playing, you know, the Living Room in Goleta, sometimes Cobalt, right? But Cobalt was always really weird
yeah,
with the band booking. Like they'd ask you who you were
well,
seeing on your way in, and like the band would get $1. It was just kind of a weird spot.
per head that, yeah, it's like, I remember the first time Carry On played there and like me being a local, but everyone else drove from fucking, 3 8+ hours away and they tried to give me $12. And I was just like, yo, you fucking asked us to play here, not the other way around. And I think I ended up getting like $50 out of the kid, but
Yeah,
like, what a fucking weird dynamic.
yeah, that
You
was
know
a
what I
weird
mean? Like,
spot. That was a weird spot. But then we had Headline, you had the PCH, and then you had Shake Cafe. You know, so there was a
yeah,
circuit that we were all playing on. You know,
dude, and especially like Alex from PCH. Like, there's not a chance in hell he would ever have done something like that to somebody. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Dude, I can't believe I forgot Headline. Like Jean Luc at Headline. Like I remember Stand Your Ground played the first location, and then I think the second location was too small to have shows at, and then the location he's at now, we played all kinds of shows there. But
yeah, yeah. I mean,
what a fucking
Alex and Jean Luc are MVPs.
dude. You know what I mean? Like in a time where you're just dying to play somewhere. Um, yeah, amazing. And like Orange County was kind of like a weird, like black hole because like I would go there to see other bands and the shows were awesome, but there was like no in to like get shows there because I didn't really know anybody. You know what I mean? Like I knew Mandel and Mandel lived there, but I wasn't going to ask him to play with Adamantium. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, like they could have probably booked us at Coos, but we would have been playing to like the same 20 people that would show up to Headline. They're just driving an extra half hour, you know? So it's like,
yeah,
just play Headline.
exactly.
But yeah, the bar was pretty high for like playing like Showcase and so forth.
Yeah, but like somehow we got shows at Showcase. Like um, Carry On played with Bane there. Like we had a couple like really awesome shows that we got on. I'm probably getting out of order here, but like, dude, the Carry On Count Me Out show there was fucking awesome. You know,
Yeah.
So cool things happen. So back to kind of like the beginning of Carry On with for me. So like the shit's really like happening and like my guitar playing is getting better, like not amazing, but at least tolerable. And I believe we start playing shows before we do The Line Is Drawn. And yeah, we must have because I remember we played a lot of shows with Jordan. And like we played, what was it? I think Death by Stereo and My Eyes at PCH Club. I don't remember who else played, but I kind of remember like those were the big bands of that show. Mandel took some really awesome photos of us at that show.
Yeah, you played that outdoor, like that college in Claremont.
We played the Yak in Claremont. It was like a skate park, and it was awesome. I mean, at the time, every hardcore band from California played that fucking thing.
Right.
And I remember Life's Halt did they did like the Rocky theme song, and they actually had like horn players
Yeah.
play the shit.
So
But that show at the Yak was actually my first show with the band, and so things things were happening, and then we record The Line Is Drawn, and shortly after, Jordan has to quit because he wasn't feeling well, and which Jordan was an insane guitar player. You want to talk about like a happy, positive, like incredible personality to be around. It was him. I mean, he'd make anyone smile. And he got sick, couldn't be in the band anymore. And then that's when we got Todd. And I believe it's the second pressing of The Line Is Drawn. We added Todd's name to the record because Jordan ended up passing away, and we did like a memorial thing in the record for him. But yeah, so that's when, around that era is when Todd joins the band.
Yeah, you want to talk about that a little bit, Corey? Like, because it hasn't been talked on the pod before, about Jordan and Jeremy, like how important they were, like in our, like how we talk about like kind of having this adjacent scene to the bigger California stuff that was going on at the time. Jordan obviously a part of Carry On, and then his brother Jeremy, like he was always like filming and so forth, and they were just like two dudes that were always around and like just really important. And you'd be a good person to speak on both of them, because I think they deserve a moment.
Yeah, totally. So Jordan, Jeremy Johnson, their brothers, and their sister Kate, all of them went to show. Kate was always around. I mean, she might not have been like the hardcore chick that like some girls were, but she was around. She came to shows. She always hung out. Sweet girl. So Jordan had a heart condition. I don't know if he was born with it or he developed it at a very young age, but it was something like, you're not gonna make it to 10 or something like that. And he made it till he was like, I think 18 or 19 when he passed away. And kind of a cool story too is that I think he had like a Make-A-Wish, and I don't remember if he got his guitar or he got his guitar amp through Make-A-Wish. Like, it wasn't like I want to meet Michael Jordan. It wasn't I want to go to fucking Disneyland. Like, yo, I want that shred stick. I want that fucking guitar. So, the kid was just an incredible person. I mean, he wrote the craziest riffs that all worked so awesome. Like The Line Is Drawn, that song, the riff is so crazy. And everything he wrote was just like that. It was like, oh, well, the dude in Turning Point does it like this. And the guy from this, like, he was maybe not on Todd Jones level as far as like the aspect of like knowing the ins and outs of everything. Cause I feel like Todd's a fucking machine. That dude is a straight machine, where Jordan was just like had a little bit more, I guess his personality showed in his guitar playing, like maybe he's like just a little bit more loose and was a little bit more open to, different guitar techniques, like how he played or whatever. It wasn't as like, perfect, like Todd plays and he writes a song. It's like, it's so precise and perfect. And Jordan wrote incredible riffs with like a different kind of like feeling to it. And so one day, I don't know if it was Josh or Ryan, they called me and they're like, oh yeah, Jordan quit. And they didn't really like go in depth on like why. And so me and my girlfriend at the time, we would drive up I'm not gonna say somewhat regularly, but we drove up several times just to spend time with Jordan after he told me that he wasn't feeling so well. And at no point did he ever go in depth on the severity of everything. Like it was just like, oh, like I have this condition and I'm not feeling so hot, so I was driving around, probably not the best for me. I'm just going to go back to school or whatever it was. And then, if my memory serves you right, he went down to UCLA Medical Center, I believe, to have a procedure done, or maybe it wasn't that procedure. Maybe it was that his condition was just getting worse and he needed to be in the hospital. And I believe that's where he passed, or maybe he had left that hospital to go home and then passed. I don't remember all those details, but unfortunately, he passes away. And it was insane, like a person that age, but it's just crazy. So you have to celebrate their life, you know. Someone who's that amazing. The only thing you can do is celebrate them, And this is a little out of timeline, but just to stick with the story. So his brother Jeremy, Jeremy was a very involved person in hardcore as well. He didn't play in bands, but he booked all the shows in Paso Robles, countless shows. He did, I believe, like the very first Carry On shirts before I was in the band. Like I think he silk screened them himself at his house. He made patches and stickers. He did a lot of stuff for Carry On. He was filming shows, so he had like a really crazy archive of shows that he'd filmed, and he was very involved. And once again, born and bred from cut from the same cloth. He was just an awesome, extremely nice guy. And he ends up getting sick one day. He was, I believe, he had joined the fire academy, like he was going to become like a fireman in like somewhere in San Luis Obispo County or something, or maybe in San Luis Obispo. And he had gotten sick and didn't pay no mind to it because, like he's got to be tough. Like he's got to get through this, this academy, like school thing to be a fireman. And it ends up being that he has leukemia. I'm not sure like what type of leukemia, but it's leukemia. And I don't remember if the first time I saw him, once I found out, was at the hospital, or if I had gone up to San Luis Obispo and he was telling me in person. But he was in the hospital on and off for a long time, so it could have been I was with him in San Luis Obispo between the breaks of going in and out of the hospital for chemo and stuff. And what happened was, the only way he was going to survive this was if he got, I believe, a bone marrow transplant. And for anyone who knows me, like I'm the sick kid. Like I'm the guy that's always fucked up. I'm always sick with something, broken something, crippled from something, fucking whatever. I'm always a fucking mess. And so Jeremy was at a hospital in Pasadena in LA. And I think it's called City of Hope, maybe. It's a cancer specialist hospital. And so I lived in the Valley, which was just like, I don't know, I was a half hour, 20 minutes away from them. So this is also out of order too, but this is during the time my back was fucked up and I wasn't working. So I had all the time in the world to go spend time with them and hang out with them in the hospital. And so I'd go and hang out, and I, I'm not gonna say every day, but you know, pretty often, probably more often than anyone else, other than his girlfriend or a family member. And I don't remember how far into this we are, but at some point his mom's like, "I got to talk to you," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure," like whatever. And they asked me to not come visit anymore because his immune system was so weak that like if like whatever I was I was probably sick with you know seasonal allergies, but they can't risk me giving him a cold or the flu or something. So they asked me not to come visit, and it was out of complete respect. Like at no point was I like, I can't fucking believe these people. Like obviously not. Like it was for the health and well being of of Jeremy, and so I still talk to him every day, um and so I get a call on the house line, and it's Jeremy, and he's like, "Hey, Piece by Piece has got shows this weekend, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, I think it's like a weekend trip. I don't know who it was with or anything, but I remember we were playing Shea Cafe that night, and he's like, or the next day, he's like, dude, I'm home and I can't be home." I was like, "Okay, what's up?" And he's like, "I'm on a train coming to you right now. Which train stop do I get off of?" Now, for anyone who knows California, like the train is not like catching the subway in New York. Like you don't just get on the Metrolink to go hang out with your friends. It just doesn't happen. So I tell him which one to go to, and I pick him up. I'm like, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing?" And he's like, "Dude, I need some normal life. I need a piece of who I am." And there was a picture of from that weekend, piece by this like real early Piece by Piece, and when we had some T-shirts made, there was like one or like two of these blue Piece by Piece hoodies, and I had one, and I gave it to Jeremy that weekend. And there's like a photo of him like sitting on the curb wearing that hoodie, and so he came to Shea Cafe with us, and maybe the other one was in like Palmdale or maybe Jerry's Pizza or something. Um, and he was with us for the weekend. He got on the train, went back home, and he went back into the hospital again because there was no matches for a bone marrow transplant, and he wasn't doing well. And no one in the family ever really said anything, if I remember right. Like they didn't blame me, but at some point I felt like there was a little bit of tension. Like I dragged him out, and he got sick from that weekend because the next time he goes into the hospital, he never recovers. And uh, so one morning I go to hang out with him, and I don't remember what was really going on, but I leave the hospital, and I can't remember if it was his girlfriend or if it was his mom. But someone calls me. I had a cell phone at the time, and calls me and says, "You need to get to the hospital right away." So, and I was literally wasn't even home from leaving the hospital, and I just gonna turn around on the freeway and go back. And the family's there, and he'd been in a coma for I don't know how many weeks or whatever at this point. And, they asked me, like what what I want if as like a member of the family. leave him on life support or not. And I told them that I couldn't be a part of the decision. Like I'm not his mother or his father or his sister, but
Jesus.
um, I I back any decision they make. But if it's anything, I don't want him to suffer. So the family decides that they would pull the plug, but they were going to give 24 hours for anyone and everyone to come say goodbye. And so now it's my job to contact everyone on Earth. And under those circumstances, I'm sure there's people I forgot, but I kind of put it on people that, like, whoever I called, I expected them to call 10 people and them to call 10 people and them to call 10 people, kind of, situation, just so that way, everyone knew. And there's some stuff that I can't talk about because I'll fucking crying all night. But the next day, they had to let him go, and yeah, fucked up.
Yeah, it's fucked up. It's like so tragic that like that can happen to a single family. Like it's heartbreaking thinking about it still to this day. And that's why, Corey, I appreciate you doing that. I know it's real hard. I really wanted to get their story on the pod because they were two really important people, and it's scary how fast time flies. That it's like almost 20 years ago now, from losing both of them. But they were really important.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
exactly.
They were really important.
Exactly.
So, and you did a dedication song like early in Internal Affairs, right, on the first 7-inch.
Yeah. This song it was for Jeremy because it was shortly after that happened that like I don't know how short after, but it's just one of those things like now when I listen to it I'm like, oh, it's awkward, like who's gonna sing along to this song? But when you're in the moment and like you want to memorialize something, make something last forever, you just do it.
Well, it's hardcore. It's hardcore.
Yeah.
It's hardcore, and his art is purist. I mean, that's you laying yourself out on your sleeve, right? And I don't know how people perceive you, like the of your piece by piece and Internal Affairs persona. I don't think like people are accusing you of being a overly sensitive person. So I think it's I think it's like it's really it's nice and it's genuine that you're able to like put yourself out there like that, especially when it's so fresh and so raw. I think that was like that's why that song transcends, and I think it's one of the early things of what made that band like so sincere and good. But yeah, we are jumping ahead. It was just it ties into that, so we had to touch it now.
No problem. So Todd joins the band.
Yep. Yeah. So Todd joins, and is this just a no-brainer? Like Stand Your Ground is done at this time, and it's like, oh, here's the greatest 18-year-old guitarist on earth who writes the best hardcore songs. We should probably just get him in our band.
Yeah, I think that was the exact words. Like, I think we were like at band practice, and like, what do we do? And like, I'm pretty sure Ryan was like, "Isn't it a fucking no-brainer? Like, Todd's got to be in the band." I'm like, yeah, obviously. So I don't remember like how it happened. I'm sure Ryan hit him up, and that was just it. It was done. And so then Todd joins the band. We're playing shows, and I think now at this point, Todd moves in with me in the valley. I think we were living in Woodland Hills. Ryan was living in Hollywood, and I don't know how long Josh stays in the band, but Josh never makes the move down, and then he ends up joining the military. But so like the one thing is like, so me and Todd lived together, and we just had one amp in the living room to like fuck with. And I remember like walking into the living room, and he's playing like the verse riff to Roll with the Punches, and I'm just like, what the fuck is that? He's like, I don't know, dude. I'm just like fucking with this thing, and like, it's pretty cool, right? And like, I was like, dude, it's insane. It's like one of the coolest things I've ever heard. And you know, being dudes that are into like crossover and thrash metal and like all that shit, and like all those like late '90s New York hardcore bands that are playing all that thrashy crossover shit, like it was that tremolo speed picking on a different level, because like who plays harmonics like that? You know what I mean? And he's playing this, and I was like, this is the direction we're going. Everyone's gonna get crushed with this shit. And so, you know, Todd and Ryan, they do the 7-inch. They ride it. And so just for the record, I only wrote one song for Stand Your Ground on the demo, and I can't believe it made it to the demo because I didn't know anything. But at this point, I never contribute writing music for Carry On. Like I had wrote a few things here or there, but to be honest, like they weren't on this fucking level. Like they weren't on Jordan's level, and they're definitely not on Todd's level. And but I was doing things like artistically, like I did a lot of like the logos and the t-shirts, record layouts. I was contributing in that aspect, because I also feel like if you got 5 dudes contributing to songwriting, your shit's gonna sound like a fucking potluck Chinese food buffet. You know what I mean? Like it's just not gonna be great because too many cooks in the kitchen. So
Well, and
I feel like
the biggest skill is just getting out of Todd's way.
yeah, like you know what I mean? Like throw him your 2 cents and let him run with it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like
And
you talk about that. You talk about that song that you heard him writing. I mean, it's basically the first Count Me Out song off their LP played 4 times as fast. You know, it's like,
yeah,
oh, we should do a
exactly.
song like that Count Me Out song. Okay, here you go. Let me just smoke it.
Yeah, you know, and so that happens. But I kind of missed a little era of hardcore as well. So before Todd joins the band, or around no, but yeah, I guess maybe around the same time, Nat joins the band playing drums. That dude Jason played on The Line Is Drawn with me, Jordan, Josh, and Ryan. And then shortly after he quits, and we get this dude Nat to play drums. Now Nat was in a band called Insist from King City, which King City is even more buttfuck middle of nowhere above Paso Robles. It's like way the fuck up there. And
It's literally where you get a speeding ticket.
yeah,
It's like
you pull over to get gas or get a speeding ticket, and that's it.
yeah, the town is just big enough to have a highway patrol station, and they're gonna get you.
And the whole band had relocated to the valley, like Reseda or something like that. And they had this house, and they had a garage converted, soundproof garage, and bands would practice there. They had shows there. I remember seeing Faded Gray and Curl Up and Die there. I think maybe I saw Life's Halt play there with like Dirty Dirt and the Dirts or something like that. And then Nick, the bass player from Insist, like he worked at BYO, and the dudes were all awesome. They were awesome. And so when Nat joins Carry On, they were Insist was a 3-piece. So I started playing guitar, so so the guitar player could sing, and played a bunch of shows like that too. But yeah, it's just like a little piece of the valley where these dudes all came from, like where Nat comes from and stuff. But
Yeah.
so now it's
And the bass player dude leaves and joins Missing 23rd.
exactly. Yeah, I completely forgot about that too. So amazing bass player. They're all like good, genuine guys. And so Nat's on drums, me and Todd on guitar, and then like the bass player situation is just like the never ending cycle of just like what the fuck. So we go to San Diego and record the 7-inch. If I remember right, Todd just played the bass on the 7-inch, if I remember right. But I don't know. I don't know if Josh was still in the band or not. Or I don't think so. And Daniel and Rob and all those dudes come. Don, everyone comes to do backups on the record and stuff, and it was a good hangout, good recording, and the record comes out awesome. So we're now going to do a first East Coast tour. Like I think it was like intended to be like 8 or 9 shows, but a lot of shows get canceled, and we end up just like staying at Donnie Mutt's house for like 4 days in Philadelphia. The other part was Teamwork was supposed to have our 7-inch ready for that tour, I believe, and it wasn't ready. So we didn't have a 7-inch for the tour. Also, American Airlines lost our merch, and our merch showed up like 8 months later at our apartment.
Fuck.
Yeah, good job, American Airlines. So, but that trip was awesome. When you're young and dumb, like just not being home and playing shows is like the greatest feeling. And when you're playing with striking distance every night, how bad could it fucking be? You know what I mean? Like the trip was so fucking cool. Meeting all kinds of people, you know, playing some really cool shows. And for me, I hadn't had my back injury yet, so I was still enjoying playing, jumping around, having an awesome time. I wasn't really a burden to the band, carried my own weight. Funny story from that tour. So the last show of the tour is in Baltimore at this place called Sushi Cafe or something like that. And it's this sushi restaurant has like I think it was like maybe like a little like discotheque upstairs, like a small little like dance hall or something that they rented out for shows. And this is also like, I'm not that familiar with Baltimore, but it seemed like the wrong side of the bridge in Baltimore, And as soon as the sun went down, the crazies came out, and like I was watching cars getting stolen from the parking lot. Like this place was insane. So, Carry On's playing, and Dave Bird smashes this dude, and I swear to God, the kid almost went through a fucking second story window and could have died. And it's just like, of course, it was Dave Bird, and it was crazy. So we're supposed to go stay at Dave Bird's house that night, and the power's out of his house, and so we're like hanging out at a 7-Eleven eating dinner at like 2 a.m. or whatever, and there's this fucking crackhead, and he's just like giving me the craziest looks. I'm bugging out, like I'm gonna go smash this dude, and Dave Bird's laughing at me like, "Oh, you're being fucking pussy. You calm down. Who fucking cares? That dude doesn't want nothing." Like Dave's giving me the hardest time, but in like a brotherly, fun way, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. So like I go and like microwave a Hot Pocket or whatever the fuck I'm supposed to be eating for dinner. Now we're like sitting out in front of the 7-Eleven, and we've been here for a long time. And now this like tweaker crackhead dude is just like sitting inside a 7-Eleven and staring at us. And now, and now Dave Bird starts bugging out, like, yo, still comes out, I'm gonna fuck him up. He's like kind of bugging out. And so now I'm like kind of talking shit to Dave and whatever. Like nothing happens. Nothing happens. Like no one does anything. And so we go back, and he was roommates with Taylor from Four Walls Falling. So we got to hang out, meet that dude, and hear some stories and shit. And it was really cool because, you know, my first tour on the East Coast, like now we're really seeing what it's like to like go into somebody else's hardcore scene and feel the love, because, you know, like our show in Philly was awesome. I believe we played home base where Wilkes-Barre, in Wilkes-Barre where Posse Numbers would be. I believe we played there. It's maybe a different room or something, but you know, like our relationship with Count Me Out, and now with Striking Distance, and just meeting all these people. Donnie Mutt, who I believe, what was his band at the time? Intention, I think it was called. But he played in a bunch of bands. He was in One Up, and he played bass for us on that tour. And just people bending over backwards to like help. You know, the hardcore scene was just, you know, just there to do cool shit. It was awesome. It was really cool.
Yeah, what's your thought on looking back now with the B-side labels for that 7-inch saying "Fuck California"?
Well, so all that stuff is like tongue in cheek, but not tongue in cheek. You know, there's so many aspects to the "Fuck California" thing that I think it was like some of it was directed towards some people, but then it was directed to like everyone, because whatever, you know, like it was like we made that song "Fuck Your Politics." So I don't think the intention of the song was to point a finger. It was to tell people to stop pointing the finger at us. You know what I mean? I think it was like, once again, I could be wrong. I didn't write the lyrics, you know, and I think I was a little naive to a lot of things that were happening with the band, because, you know, Ryan and Todd were so much more involved, and I just kind of wrote along with whatever a lot of the decisions were made. And, you know, not like I would have made any decisions differently. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that like sometimes I was just kind of like, yeah, cool, whatever. And we were so tight with like Life's Hall and Dirty Dirts and all those bands, and that song came out, and they were, you know, I don't know if you would call them, you know, a lot of people refer to them like the PC Police or whatever, and we didn't have any problems with them. And then I think that they took offense to the song, and suddenly these people that we were super close with, the bands that we loved, had problems with us. And was it self-inflicted? Yeah, I mean, you put your foot down, you know, or you put something in writing, you know, like you got to stand by it. So I don't know if it was really like a stance on, you know, like we're going to piss these people off, but it was taken a certain way, and people didn't like us. Now, as far as like, I think what those labels were intended for was the whole like metalcore scene. You know, it was huge. It was thriving. I mean, you know, Throwdown showcases sold out. You know, we're playing shows to like 40 people at PCH Club, and at the time, I didn't care. You know, but I think it was like when, say, In My Eyes or Better Than 1,000 comes to town, those shows are sold out. Well, who the fuck are you people? Where the fuck did you come from? How come you're not out supporting the bands that sound the same, that are coming from the same style, the same whatever? And you know, it just comes from the, you know, when you're younger, you're full of piss and vinegar, and you don't really give a fuck who you're going to piss off.
No, I
You
know, I
just
know.
do.
I feel you, but like that's kind of like those people that only supported those bands. It was like East Coast jockeying, and then like to do the fucking California thing, especially like on a New Jersey label, it always seemed weird to me. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I I don't think I ever put like I put it together like that. I don't think I ever like really, you know, I don't think it was really intended for, you know, maybe it was intended to piss off everyone,
Yeah.
you
Hey,
know.
could have worked. Maybe it worked. Maybe it just
Yeah,
it triggered me, so it worked. But
you know,
everything
but
triggers me. I'm easy.
yeah, but in the same turn too, like I didn't want that record to be on Teamwork. I wanted it to be on Youngblood again, and the band was kind of divided uh, about going with Youngblood again or Teamwork. And you know, Todd, how he liked Chris Kelly is the craziest thing on earth. But Teamwork as a label was awesome, and you know, he was like, I really want to have a record on Teamwork. And so, you know, I don't think Sean or Joe had any, you know, felt slighted for us like putting a record on another label or anything like that. I don't think they're that kind of people, but Todd really wanted that record on that label, and we said sure, you know. And then it was just kind of, I wouldn't say a mess, but pain in the ass. You know, records weren't done in a specific time. There was supposed to be two colors. The blue vinyl got pressed like who the fuck knows how much longer at a different time. You know, those records came out not even remotely close at the same time. Um, Chris Kelly was just a pain in the ass,
Yeah, he
and
sucks. He sucks. Not a friend of the
it,
pod.
no. So, you know, like funny story about him too is like, so 97A comes out, and you know, we're all doing everything to get them around the shows. Like I don't think they had a van or something. Like for some reason, or maybe they did, and some of the guys went in their van, and then some of the guys came with me. And I was living at my girlfriend's house at the time, and she had this awesome house in Malibu, and so she invited them to come stay. And she like cooked them food, did their fucking laundry. They all had a bed to sleep in. Like you can't fucking complain when you're on tour. Yet that dude was a fucking grouchy bitch. And then you know, my girlfriend slammed the car door on someone's hand. You're not fucking 2 years old. Move your fucking hand. Like, why is your hand there? They were crying. They started punching the seat that my girlfriend was sitting in. I had to fucking freak out on him because he was like scaring my girlfriend. And then we did there was like a double show or something. I think that like Headline and PCH were the same day or something like that.
Okay.
And I think we were at PCH, and I think like I like threatened Chris or something stupid. But whatever the discrepancy was, he apologized, and nothing happened. Like we shook hands or something, and it was fine. But it just felt like just they were unappreciative.
Yeah, like why is there drama? No one's trying to slam your hand, dude. You know, come on.
Yeah.
So
So then,
so
go ahead.
well, okay, so the 7-inch on Teamwork comes out, you do this East Coast tour, and basically like everyone realizes like the force that Carry On is now, right? Because the Line Is Drawn 7-inch is really good, but it's like the Youth Crew Hardcore, it is like more on the posy tip, and then
Correct.
it's a slight sound change, and you guys are like sonically a lot more brutal. Um, and does the popularity, you feel like it's like pulsing on the East Coast? It's not catching on as much on the West Coast. Um, where do you go from here? Like you record the LP in the next year, correct?
Well, so the 7-inch comes out. So now we like actually have the 7-inch, and like you can tell that like it's definitely more like Right Brigade influenced. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Um, and so we do like a small tour with American Nightmare. So now we're meeting these dudes for their first time. They're coming to California for the first time. Chris Wren from Bridge 9 is with them, and of course we give them all the record and stuff, and these shows are fucking awesome. And this is also like when the time when Ojai Women's Center is starting to start popping off, and maybe because it's our like local thing, I feel like even the bad shows were fucking awesome there, you know. So now it's like now we got this fucking awesome record. People are really starting to notice, and now we kind of have our own venue. You know what I mean? I think at this point, Laser Star's not doing shows anymore, and like the living room shut down, and so once again we're back. We're back in the situation where there's not a lot of venues to play, but we have our own, and so now shit's really starting to move. You know, so now Bridge Nine offers to do the record, and Chris is an incredible guy. Like, dude, it's just fucking. He's just go go go, business business business, but like so cool at the same time. Like, so stoked to work with you, so stoked to like talk ideas, and so excited for this and that. So, um, at some point before we do the record, I get hurt. I fuck up my back really bad, and I start missing out on a lot of things. But I'm not mad. I'm not resentful or anything, because at this point, I obviously know I'm going to be good again at some point, and just keep going, keep pushing. So I had to miss out on like a West Coast tour with Champion. A Ram from Champion played guitar for me. And then there might have been some other shows someone filled in or something, or maybe I finally started being okay to like play guitar, but I'm the statue in the corner, like just frozen, just barely holding on to my guitar, but playing, you know? So then we go to the East Coast and we go to record the LP with Kurt at God City, Kurt from Converge. And awesome experience. Like, now we're with an engineer, producer who's from the hardcore scene, knows everything about hardcore, and he's like not really producing in the sense of like, you know, change these riffs or that riffs, or not really like changing the structure of the songs. But I remember he told us that there was something wrong with Off My Chest. I think it was the breakdown or something. It was out of time. And it was kind of like, well, do you want to play it that way or do you want to fix it? And so Todd was like, well, let's fix it. I think we spent an entire like 8-hour day doing the drums to that one song, because Lucas just couldn't unlearn how to play the song that he'd been playing for fucking how long. And so poor fucking Lucas on those drums. And and we were recording reel to reel that was going to get bounced to Pro Tools afterwards, but you got to get all the material onto the reel correct first. And Kurt just whips out a fucking razor blade and tape and just starts fucking dicing this shit up. And like, I don't know if anyone said anything like in fear at the time, but I remember staring at him, and he's just like, total mild mannered. Like, at the time, Kurt wasn't doing this as like his full time job. Like Converge and the recording studio wasn't his full time job. I believe he was like an engineer. Like, he was designing parts for artificial hearts. So you're talking to like this genius motherfucker who invents pieces for artificial hearts to save people's lives, and he's just fucking slicing and dicing like he's cutting someone open on a fucking 2-inch reel. Works out perfect. The thing fucking syncs up perfect. Boom, done. Record it, and yeah, that was it. Sealed deal. So we on that, while we're out there, everything was kind of timed right, and it was around Posy numbers, so we drove down and played Posy numbers. And we also had played one local show in Boston, and it was, who was on it? American Nightmare, Bane, Stop and Think. There was was it like Panic played maybe? I don't know. But the show was insane. The show was total fucking insane. So now we're like enlisting all of Converge to help our band. So now Jake gets hired to do our artwork. And so it's kind of interesting because it's like, straightforward hardcore band hires this dude that does all this super wild art for their record. And I feel like at the time I was like, I don't know about this artwork. It's kind of crazy, but I think it was really smart because it fits the title of the record. You know what I mean? Like, it's very fitting, and it's just wild enough that it's not like hard to look at. And I think it definitely set us apart from everything else. Like, we did the flash art, which Brian from Dark Horse, who he was at Spotlight at the time, he did the artwork, and it's like, you can't get, you can't get a more perfect fitting tattoo flash artwork on record. Like, it was so perfect. But every band was still doing that kind of thing. So it was like you had to do something different. You couldn't just put a live photo on a record. We already did that. Or we didn't do that. We did a picture of Ryan on the street. But you had to come with something different. And I think we were just ahead of the curve or outside the box, to do something to fit that record, and it worked out awesome.
Yeah, it just added like a little extra depth. Like,
Totally.
Like there's a little more to this band than just being like a straightforward hardcore band.
Yeah, so the band decides they're gonna do an East Coast tour, and I couldn't go. Like, I was under the eye of workers' comp, and I had to be really smart about what I was doing, because I couldn't risk my case, and I hadn't had back surgery yet. I was waiting on the surgery date. So John Westbrook is going to fill in guitar, and they do the Death Threat Over My Dead Body Hope Conspiracy tour. I'm sure it was awesome. I ended up flying out for the Back to School Jam. It was the last show of the tour, I believe, just so I had something to do. And so I went and saw them there. And then we came home, and our last show was with American Nightmare, Converge, Hope Conspiracy, Planes Mistaken for Stars, I believe, at the Troubadour. And this is possibly one of the worst nights on stage ever. Like no one's playing right, no one's playing good. Nick was fucking up songs. Nick never fucked up songs. And yeah, that was it. We're done. We play. We're over with. And you know, uh, Nick mentioned that he heard it from me that we broke up. Well, it was funny because I wasn't living with Todd anymore, and Todd was a little distant. Well, because we didn't live together, we didn't work together. We're not going to talk every day. But I wasn't hearing from him, and someone was asking me like if we broke up. I was like, I don't know, I don't think so. And it was talk to me, and I think it was like a week or two later, I read it on the Rev board that we broke up. No one even told me to my face.
Fuck.
So that was kind of weird. But if I were to say that I didn't see it coming, like I'd be lying as well. So like when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, well that's obvious, And then the whole like Ryan selling out, if I would have known from the beginning, I would have quit at whatever point I would have heard, I would have known about it because it's a straight edge band. I'm not going to be in a straight edge band that doesn't have straight edge dudes. You know what I mean? If it wasn't a straight edge band, then it wouldn't fucking matter. But, and I remember, people were like, oh, I saw Ryan at the club drinking, and and I'm thinking in my head, like, well, I've been to clubs. I'm drinking water or a soda, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just having a fucking drink, like, whatever. He's just got a water, got a soda, got a ginger ale or something. And so I'd ask Ryan, did you sell out? Like, no, dude, like people, they just talk. And so, I trusted him because, what friends lie to their faces and stuff. So, but I also get it, you know what I mean? Like people sell out and they just can't trust the fact that like your friend is your friend because they're your friends. They love you because you're friends, not because, you're a part of some weird underground fucking cult, But yeah, so that's kind of how Carry On ends, and it was interesting because Todd knew about Ryan. I don't know for how long, but I remember Todd had come to practice once just before we broke up, and he had like these new songs, and they were kind of out there, like a little too far past like the next progression of the band. And then like once the band broke up, I was like, he just wasn't writing like he gave a shit about this or something, But so everyone's still friends, you know what I mean? Like it is what it is. Things happen, and I think the first band that actually started post Carry On was Vengeance. And then like Piece by Piece might have been around the same time or just very shortly after, but I feel like I remember Vengeance being the first project to be post Carry On. And so me and Nick start Piece by Piece. Or they might have had Piece by Piece and then kind of just asked if I wanted to be a part of it. I don't really remember, but either way, it's like, hey, we're going to jam. You want to come? So I now have my back surgery, feeling good, going to play in a band. And, I think, I want to say they recorded the demo like during the time I was having back surgery. So like I didn't actually play on the demo, but I wrote like a couple songs for it or one song or something. And then, shortly after that, Terror started kind of happening. But I want to say like during the start of Terror, Piece by Piece put out a demo, and we played, I don't think a lot of shows, but we probably played 2, 3, maybe 4 shows before that Pat's Warehouse show with Terror and Knife Fight and stuff. So Piece by Piece might have been the first like actual band post Carry On, but Vengeance almost happened. I have some songs somewhere. I don't know if it was like supposed to be for the demo, if they were just like demo tracks to just record the songs for songwriting purposes, but it was cool. I think the music was rad.
So
I think
who is in Vengeance for the people?
fuck, I would assume I think it was Greg Bacon. I think maybe Kevin Jaros, who was in Collision and then later did join Eternal Affairs. I think he might have played guitar. Maybe Chafee from Stand and Fight, and was he also in No Reply? Uh, Maybe he played drums.
Okay.
Fuck, I don't really remember. Like I remember Todd gives me a T-shirt, like, "Yo, this is my band." So I had a Vengeance T-shirt, and he gave me some songs, but I don't think it was intended to be released as a demo. I think maybe they just recorded them because they were jamming at Nick's house. Because at the time, everyone recorded or just used Nick's soundproof studio to like play in. But that didn't work out. I don't think Todd was comfortable on the microphone. Maybe his voice was wild, like real aggressive, real wild sounding, and I don't remember if they stopped just because Todd didn't want to be the singer or didn't want to move forward with that band, or if they stopped because of the development of Terror. I don't really remember that timeline, or I wasn't part of any of that decision making. But
Yeah. So with Piece by Piece, what's like the mission statement? Like when in those early days, like what's your talk like? What do you want to do with the band?
I don't really think anything. I think so. So it was Nick, his buddy Nick, this dude Sean Grind, and Jeff Givens. So Jeff Givens was like our dude. So I remember like Carry On would go places. We brought the Jeffs. We brought Jeff Givens and Jeff Layton, and the Jeffs would just fucking smash people. Just these dudes just love the pit, and so I was like, dude, you play bass? And he's like, I don't play bass. Like they're just gonna teach me the songs. I'm like, all right, cool. And Nick Jett was like a real interesting character because I knew him through Little Anthony and Ryan Ober. Um, uh, Little Anthony had a band called Fistful, and this dude Sean played drums in it, and Nick Jett happened to be the bass player. And through all that, that's how we discovered Nick and got Nick to play in Carry On because I knew him through them. And so I feel like when Nick was in Carry On, Nick was always kind of like my dude. Like we were actual friends. Like we hung out a lot outside of the band, and we were pretty close. And so he's like, yeah, dude, I got this band. It's just kind of like just old and raw sounding. And I was just like, yeah, cool. Played me the songs, and I thought it was awesome. It was just like Die Go Die. It's just like ridiculous. And it felt fitting to me. Like I don't know, like I feel like I related to it because it was simple and caveman and I don't know, it was cool. And it just I don't think there was like any kind of mission statement. Like you would have thought like coming out of Carry On, there'd be like a different vibe, like a different drive to do something, but I'd never really written music. I never wrote lyrics. I always contributed to the band in other ways. So I didn't really know, like doing another band, would I have to assume that role, and I don't know if I was prepared to assume the role of like a songwriter, and I didn't. I think in all the time of Piece by Piece, like, so that band's been a band for 18 years, you know. I've only written like, I don't know, one or two songs for the whole thing, you know. So even with that band, I never really contributed musically. Like, most of the time, Nick just records the whole fucking shit himself and just goes, "Yo, check this out! I recorded this," and like you just have the next record handed to you, you know.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until Terror was doing things regularly that I found myself like writing music that I could have worked in Piece by Piece, I think, but I wanted something for myself. And then, you know, like, I named the band Internal Affairs because it was basically my bullshit. It was what was going on in my head. Like, it was, you know, my music, my lyrics and stuff. When I say mine, not 100%. Like, I remember on the demo, like, I'm sitting there working on lyrics and Jeff Gibbons is like, "Oh, let me see that shit." And like took my lyric sheet and like filled in a bunch of lines. Like, it basically just anyone who was around, I allowed to contribute, like band members, non-band members, like it didn't matter. Like, if you had something cool to contribute, you know, put it in there. And so that was kind of how Internal Affairs started.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think that Todd summed it up perfectly. Like, internal, like, if you had to like describe Corey with a band, what would it be? And it would be Internal Affairs. And so, like, if you think about that, it's like, fuck, you fucking nailed it, dude. Like, how many people can like really like express themselves musically and lyrically through their band? Like, that's the biggest struggle you have, is like, how do you make something authentic, you know? And like, you were actually able to do it. And maybe that is because, you know, you're going to shows for over 10 years by this time. You know, you're playing in bands for over 5 years before this time. Whereas like your time, like, it was like, all right, I've been, you know, involved in shit, but now is my time to like step up and do it. Like, maybe just the time was right and you had like the right amount of confidence, but you're still like young enough to go for it, and all this, like, it just all lined up perfect.
Yeah, you know, I think it's like timing is everything, you know. And is it still on?
Yeah.
Jack, here, okay. Um, Timing's everything, and like with the music, like even all the way through, like you can tell, like, I'm not a songwriter. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, shit's out of time. No one's telling me like, "Oh, it's got a weird count." They just fucking roll with it. Um, you know, and then besides that, it's like the era of hardcore that we're like moving into. You know, like it's turning into like a time period where like you really can just do whatever the fuck you want, and if people are into it, you roll with it, and you can hear that like there's influences from like power violence bands, and you know, at the time I felt like I was like keeping like fast hardcore in regular hardcore. Like, you know, like people used to use the term like record collector hardcore. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you wanted to hear like a cool fast band. Well, they only played with like these cool guy bands or whatever the fuck, and fit into this other weird niche world of hardcore. And I was just like, why is it that Floor Punch is the only band playing like super fast songs or whatever? Like, everyone should still play fast songs. And, you know, I just played them a little faster or shorter, I should say. Like, you know, some of the songs are just, you know, I felt like you didn't need an entire 2 minutes of verse chorus breakdown or something to get your message across, you know, and it worked out, you know. Sometimes I'm like, I can't fucking believe people like this shit. but maybe that's one of those things where that people related to it or something because it wasn't cookie cutter. It was something weird and different. And like we play shows and no one knew what the fuck to do. They're like, oh, there's the mosh part. Oh, the mosh part's over. I'm like, didn't mosh or, like.
I missed the mosh. God damn it.
Yeah. So
there it was.
It was weird, but like things took off quick.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing was that for the most part, unless you're from California, no one fucking knew I was the dude from Carry On. So like, we never shopped the ex-member from this or that. Like, we didn't say it, and nobody knew. Like, I'd get places or be on tour or whatever, and they're like, "You were in Carry On? I didn't know that." And you look it up. I played on 3 of the 4 records, but so it was definitely like something that I could put like all my heart and soul into. And
yeah, because you built from scratch. You weren't riding a wave of something else.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
I want to go all into that, but we're already at like over 2 hours. So
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, man. I think we got to do it again because the internal affairs stuff, that's when we get to like the good story time and so forth. But I'm glad we spent so much time on like the origin. Got to touch the Carry On stuff. But yeah, let's do it again real soon. And
man, I appreciate it.
We'll do a part 2 for sure. Do you feel like all the way up to internal affairs, you've been well represented?
Yeah, man. Like I feel like hardcore is one of those things that the average person owes it to somebody to give them credit for, getting into it. And I hope that I didn't forget anybody, but I felt like it was important to tell a little story about all the important people that got me to where I was or where I am.
Yeah, I think that was, it was so nice too with like the Ojai tie-in, because those guys were like so important to my journey as well. Like they were some of the first people I met that were like not from my hometown, that were like way into something, and like they were like way into it. I learned so much from them. It was insane,
Oh yeah, totally.
So, and it's sick because they're still going. I mean, Zarian's still in Lecherous Gaze, and JP, I haven't seen. Well, I saw him at the No Motive reunion, but his younger brothers are around going to shows, so it's like still there. Like actually, let me bring this up to wrap the episode on this, because I think this is an interesting topic, and I think you're a good person to speak on it. When you predate me and going to shows by several years. But like I remember like starting to go in shows in like the mid 90s and then even the late 90s, and it's like older dudes, there weren't that many of them. It's kind of like if you saw someone that was like 26 or some shit, it was like they were like the older dude at hardcore, And it's fucking weird because like our generation, if you want to lump you and me together, there's so many of us that are still around. Like I almost feel like the generation before us, like maybe like the people that got into it in like the late 80s, there's a handful of them that like ended up being lifers, but then like our generation, why is it there's so many dudes still involved? Do you have any idea, or do you have a take on that?
Yeah, I don't know, because like the people that I knew that were older than me weren't really that much older than me. Like Kevin Jaros, dude saw Minor Threat in '83. He still goes to shows.
Right.
So, like he's of a whole nother level of dudes that stuck around, still go to shows. But I think like when you put like punk and hardcore in perspective, say in the '80s, you're going to the Grand Olympic Auditorium for a show. Like you're going fucking 3,000 people in there or something. You go to the Palladium for a show. The country club. I know Andrew said something like 800 cap. I went there once and it wasn't for a good show. It was terrible, but I want to say like it was laid out similar to the Palladium, but like half the size. So that place probably holds like 1,500 people. You know,
Yeah,
um,
Joe was saying he thought it was like a 1,200 cap.
Joe was probably more accurate because he actually went there for actual real shows and shit. So episode 1 is probably correct on that one. But
Sure.
yeah, um, but there's a few people, but I kind of feel like the post-hardcore thing kind of hold people away. So you figure like the late '80s, early '90s, hardcore bands aren't like putting out third, fourth, fifth records. You know what I'm saying? So you got bands like Quicksand and I don't have any other good examples, but like Zach going on to do like uh, Rage Against the Machine. So I think what happens is that at some point an avenue opened up, and these dudes who were actually talented, incredible musicians had easy ways to move on. And when, say, like your favorite guitar player from your favorite band is doing something else, maybe you just fall in line and you follow that route, and then you move on to something different. I'm not really sure, but I think like if you put in the perspective of our generation, that that didn't really happen. Like it wasn't like, oh, my band got big with these couple rad records, and then we're gonna go to a major label, or we're just gonna be so big that we don't gotta play hardcore shows anymore. I mean, you can see that I don't know if I would say it failed with No Warning, but No Warning puts out one of the greatest LPs ever. Never does a West Coast tour. I don't know how many times they toured around the East Coast or whatever, but and then they made the move. Now, whether you like Suffer Survive or not, it's definitely a different step into a different direction than, say, Ill Blood, and they didn't really have they didn't become the next Linkin Park or anything. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right, right. They still tried to stay like in heavy music, but it was like it was that direction.
yeah,
But
like
but none of our I guess I think you're right. You're touching on something like like none of our friends' bands like because you have those earlier '90s bands like you turn into like the Far Sides or the Game Faces or these type of bands where it's like it has like super hardcore roots, but it's like a coming out with a different sonic sound. I mean, just
yeah,
following Todd's trajectory, it's like he's not doing his Game Face project. He does fucking nails. You know what I mean? It's like the
yeah, like
total opposite.
he's just as extreme as you can get. Like you take people like the dudes in Strife. You know, they, all kinds of doors open for them. He said, like Metal Blade reached out to him. Who knows what could have happened after this Defiance, but they took those doorways and they just kind of like utilized them in a hardcore fashion. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, well, we're good friends with Deftones, so just sing on our record. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to
Right.
try and sound like the Deftones, but you can sing on our record because you're going to fit into this song perfect. Or having Dino from Fear Factory do some guitar shit for them, or like they, the intro, outro, mid intro shit on Insta Defiance. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, so hardcore bands are so big now that they're getting publishing deals, so they're just going to abuse the deal, you know, and not really sacrifice the quality of the songs to satisfy the deal. They're just going to make up a bunch of shit to just meet the requirement. And it's so I think like the doors that opened before are just different. You know what I'm saying? And because people didn't just move on to play in bigger or different or other scenes, maybe people just didn't leave. I don't know. Or maybe we're all just fucking losers that have nothing better to do. No, I'm just kidding. But I don't know what the fuck I would do with my time. Like I just like music, so
Yeah.
whatever kind of. But as far as like generational goes, like Todd Tyler, that dude's been around forever, and he's still out going to shows, collecting records, and I don't really have an answer to that other than obviously it's recognizable. I also feel like when you're that young, you're not really paying attention to everyone in the room. So there
Sure.
might have been a whole lot of
Sure.
other people there that, they're just kind of like in the back of the room, not getting smashed by security or some 18-year-old kid with a spin kick. So
Yeah. You're right. You're right. I just
I
think
don't know.
it's an interesting topic, and I like
Definitely.
I like people's opinions on it. So anyway, I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
definitely.
Let's plan on round 2 very soon.
All right. Sounds good, bro.
All right. Thank you.
Later, bud.